It was supposed to be just another rainy night in the city, but for Shizuru Tachibana, this would be the last memory he ever had of this world. Shizuru runs across the city with only his briefcase to cover his head after working overtime. The poor guy forgot to pack an umbrella, but there's a silver lining in all of this. Right now, he has his newly bought favorite book in his other hand. Despite his unpleasant predicament, Shizuru's already thinking about what he'll do as he gets home. He'll have his dinner, then crawl under the blankets and finally read his book. Or so he thought. Not a moment later, lightning struck him out of all places and people. They say you have a 1 in a million chance of getting struck by lightning. I guess Shizuru just used his luck on this one. There was emptiness and a floating feeling after that, and suddenly, a loud voice from behind apologized to him. That snapped our MC out of his reverie, turning to see an older man bowing his head to him. The stern-looking man suddenly locked eyes with Shizuru and shyly introduced himself as the Thunder God. That's when the older man relayed that it was actually his fault Shizuru got hit by lightning. In his defense, the Thunder God was just trying to relieve stress. He didn't mean to harm anyone deliberately. Before Shizuru could even speak up, the old man became frantic, knowing it was his fault. So to compensate for our MC's untimely death, the Thunder God asked him if he wanted to be reborn in another world. Wait, like reincarnation? For the first time since their meeting, Shizuru called out to the older man in a loud voice, something that shook the latter's nerves. Does this boy not like his offer? That's where he thought wrong, because suddenly Shizuru's already rambling about an interesting world, you know? Like those in fantasy novels where they use swords and magic and that kind of stuff. The Thunder God was taken aback by his sudden enthusiasm, but yeah, that's the kind of world he was talking about. Plus, get this, Shizuru can also have a blessing. Shizuru finally calmed down a bit as the older man explained what was going to happen. He hands Shizuru a book containing all the details of the world he will be reincarnated into. Oh cool, a guidebook. Shizuru opened it, and to his delight it was his favorite novel. It tells the story of a boy who went on to become the most powerful wizard in the world. Along the way he made a lot of friends and fought powerful enemies, ultimately becoming the world's greatest hero. Contrary to the novel's hero, Shizuru's previous life was the opposite. He did his work and avoided clashing with others to maintain a good relationship with his workmates. He was always cautious, and it was the same boring day, nothing out of the ordinary. So we kinda understand why a lot of isekai stories are all about corporate slaves being reborn into another adventure-filled world, no? With that said, Shizuru wants to experience becoming a hero and saving everyone. In a quiet voice, he told the Thunder God that he wanted to become the main character of this world, the one in the book. Say no more. The older man raised his hand, and suddenly, the floor where Shizuru stood started to glow. Hold on, he's being reincarnated right now? Our MC starts to panic, but the older man only wishes him luck. And before he knew it, lightning struck where Shizuru was standing. And here they say lightning never strikes the same place twice. Guess Shizuru's the only exception. As soon as our hero was gone, the Thunder God took his sake out and started to drink. He can't believe the boy bought his excuse of accidentally unaliving Shizuru. What's even more outrageous is that our boy even believed the reincarnation story. The older man takes a sip of the sake and could only stare into the distance, mumbling about how Shizuru can't escape his fate and that he could only count on our boy. Speaking of Shizuru, there was only darkness before he opened his eyes and was greeted with an unfamiliar woman's face, smiling down on him. For the life of him, Shizuru couldn't understand why his hands were so small and why he couldn't speak. It took a full moment before he realized that he was actually reincarnated as a baby. While he was having an internal breakdown, the unfamiliar woman cradled him in her arms. From the looks of it, this must be his mom, right? And it seems that their family is pretty loaded too. Our hero couldn't help but be pleased, which translated into a giggle as he realized his standing. His happiness was short-lived as he heard his mother tell him that he would be receiving the fire blessings as a member of the Four-Blaze family, approaching a giant cauldron with intense flames in it. Hell nah, this is a good family, right? Right? Baby Shizuru looks at the blazing flames with the eyes of a dead fish. That's when his mother started chanting to the flames, which got our boy panicking and crying. His mother nuzzles his face, asking why he was crying, as if she's not about to cast him into the fire. On the contrary, she thinks that little Shizuru's happy to finally receive their family's blessing. With that, she was about to really do it, a sinister smile on her face as our little hero could only extend his tiny hands to her. Being killed as soon as he was reborn wasn't part of the novel he read. At this point, he'll die before he can even become a hero. So Shizuru wails, crying out for the Thunder God's help. Help came, just not in the way he expected. There was a rumbling noise as the guards started to, be on guard. They call out to Shizuru's mother, Irina, to run away as a giant dragon flies toward them. Now both mother and son are horrified, while the guard hurries over to them. Shizuru knows the book has a few dragons, but not something like this. Irina clutches her son closer, smiling brightly as she asks if he's scared. She assures Shizuru that Gren would take care of it, reassuring Shizuru even if she is shaking out of fear. As she hugs the baby closer, our hero wonders how she could act calmly when it finally dawns on him. It's because she's his mother. She will protect him. The dragon finally made its landing, glaring at them. But Shizuru was too busy thinking about how he had just met his mother. The winged creature turns and finally sees Irina and Shizuru hiding behind a pillar. It lets out a roar as Irina hugs her son tighter and braces herself, turning away from the dragon. Shizuru, who is now facing the dragon, glares back at the dragon as he expresses his wish to protect his mother. His eyes lit up, and soon a giant magic circle appeared in the sky as a sudden bolt of lightning struck the dragon. So this is the story of the new Shizuru Tachibana. He may have the Thunder God's blessing, but our hero knows he'll be facing a lot of hardships from here on out. This is why it's crucial for him to gain the power to protect everyone and become the hero in doing so. After the lightning struck the dragon dead, Shizuru lost consciousness just in time for the guards to find him. Thankfully, he's unharmed, though they are surprised. How could he fall asleep in such a situation? Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of his mother, Irina. The guards found her unconscious and injured. Despite all this, word spread of how the dark dragon Digzaria, one of the threats to the Astria kingdom, had been finally exterminated. Officials of the kingdom quickly launched an investigation and found out that it was the Four-Blaze child who killed the dark dragon. From then on, Shizuru was given the nickname Miracle Child. Fast forward a few years and we find ourselves at a lavish manor where a maid calls out to wake Shizuru. Our hero, who is now 7 years old, is cozily wrapped up under the covers until the maid brazenly draws the curtain open to lighten the whole room. And that did the trick to waking our hero. The maid Marl wakes our hero up with a smile, while the latter can only comment on her high energy so early in the morning. She hurries him to get changed, reminding Shizuru of today's schedule. Shizuru's still groggy, so Marl uses this chance to undress him, but no sooner had she put her hands on his collar than Shizuru was already pushing her out the door. Marl cries out to her master outside the door, while Shizuru tells her from the outside that he can change out of his clothes by himself. Marl overdramatically cries out how much she wanted to help him do so, saddened by him shutting her out. For those of you wondering, Marl is his official personal maid, but if he's being honest, our hero treats her more like an older sister, or even a younger sister at times. She has been by his side ever since his birth, making her a family member he can depend on. Shizuru lets out an exasperated sigh and catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror. He takes a closer look, thinking about how it's been 7 years since he was reborn into this world. Now he's living as Shizuru Four-Blaze, the second son of the Four-Blaze family. The longer he looks at his reflection in the mirror, the more he finds it hard to believe that this is his life now. Silky blonde hair and bright golden eyes. Shizuru's features are the very features of a prince. He thanks the Thunder God for blessing him with so much, though it did make him think if the older man's alright since he hasn't seen the old fellow for a while. After marveling at his features, Shizuru quickly changed and emerged from the room with Marl still pouting. She collected herself and demanded that she help him get changed next time, but absolutely not. Shizuru has no plans on letting a maid, let alone a minor one, do that. Clothes-changing matter aside, Marl finds her master a tad bit different from other nobles. Not only was he able to do his chores by himself, but she was also taken aback by what he said during his meal last time, that he wanted to have a meal with all of the servants sometimes. Remembering that made Shizuru scratch his head in embarrassment. In his defense, he felt it was such a waste to eat by himself in such a large hall. Now that he thought about it, Shizuru remembered that the etiquette between noblemen and commoners is very strict. For the former, they must act decently at all times. But if you look at it objectively, Shizuru had been living as a commoner since his salaryman days. He can't exactly adopt a nobleman's etiquette immediately, right? Marl told him then that his father, Glenn, would like to talk to him, so he should go to the latter's room later. Shizuru turned, surprised since his father doesn't usually do so. Even Marl has no idea why, since her master didn't say why. Shizuru instantly beamed. Could his old man finally allow him to learn magic? Judging from her indifference, Marl had already heard about this one too many times. Shizuru reasons that it's because he wants to become the greatest mage, so his maid can only offer her full support, although she cautions him that magic can be pretty dangerous. Maybe he can start learning about it when he gets older in a bit. And if anything, Shizuru's existence is curious enough as it is. Let's talk about the noble families in the Astrea kingdom. Here, children are gifted blessings by spirits at random once they turn 6 months old. These blessings are categorized into 6 magic types: fire, water, wind, earth, dark, and light. Usually, children inherit the same magic type as their parents. In Shiz's case, both his father and older brother come from a generation of light magic, with Marl affirming it. Everyone, except Shizuru. Unlike everyone else, our hero is blessed with thunder magic. But still, his kind of magic shouldn't exist in their world. Since it's the first time their world has encountered someone blessed with thunder magic, the whole kingdom is keeping a close eye on him. What's even worse is that because his mother birthed him, a child without light magic, they thought she was having an affair. Marl adds that because thunder magic is basically a type of unidentified magic, they can't find someone to teach him. For that, Marl believes the madam would not allow him to learn magic. At the mention of the madam, Shizuru's body shook out of fear. To be clear, the madam Marl was referring to isn't his mother. You see, the Four Blaze family has two concubines, Elizabeth and Irina, and no, their relationship isn't all that bad like in telenovelas. In fact, they get along fairly well. If there's anything one needs to know about Elizabeth, it's that she's super strict. She also considers Shizuru as one of her own and takes to disciplining him really well. Just the mere thought of that sent shivers down his spine, something Marl was quick to point out. Can you believe she told Shizuru he should become independent soon and have his own territory? Talk about child labor. Marl believes her mistress is just worried about Shizuru. In reply, our hero points out that he remembers Marl once telling him that she's also afraid of Elizabeth. Of course she is. Marl reveals that it's because a rumor has been going around claiming the mistress will banish servants to the borders once they make a mistake. Oops. After airing it out, Marl instantly regrets it, blaming Shizuru for making her spill the truth. She clears her throat and goes back to the subject. Shizuru's blessing is pretty powerful. She even thinks he forgot about this. But she's reminded again how he was able to defeat a dragon by himself as a baby. Unknown to her, Shizuru perfectly remembers everything about that moment. The aggressive dragon and the surge of power that flowed in his hand. The mere thought of it was a bitter memory, a feeling that reflected on his face, and Marl noticed. Before she could speak up, Shizuru switched back to his cheery self as they approached the dining room, wondering aloud what his meal would be. As soon as he opened the door, he was surprised to see his mother was already there. Irina sits in a wheelchair, assisted by another maid. Shizuru greets his mother, commenting on the latter's good health that day. She replies that it's because of that she expressed her wish to dine in the hall today. In case you're wondering why her eyes are closed, Irina was struck by the same lightning that took out the dragon 7 years ago. As a result, she became blind and is paralyzed from the lower body down. Despite everything that happened to her, Irina beamed at her son, happy to spend the day with him like this. She cups his face in both her hands, relishing how much he has grown in the past few years. Doing this just made Shizuru bashful. Besides, didn't they just see each other a few days ago? Our hero was about to protest the cheek squishing when she suddenly told him that he was too tense. Marl, on the other hand, is having the time of her life seeing Shizuru get doted on. With just a mere touch, Shizuru is impressed at how his mother can sense his insecurities. But before it could get too sappy, Irina tells them that they should eat and asks for Shizuru's hand for assistance, with the latter obliging willingly. After their meal, Shizuru goes for a walk thinking about how his mother looks okay, but deep inside he knows she isn't. Although in his mind he thinks it's also partly because his mother is locked up inside her room all day, without being exposed to the sunlight. In the real world, Shizuru's real parents should have passed by now. Given how he spent the last 7 years with Irina, he couldn't help but get attached to her. With that said, Shizuru wants to cure her and see her bright eyes as she walks under the sun. As soon as he thought of this, he arrived at an empty spot in the forest with no one in sight. Back in his old world, he remembers how some children are able to remember a lot of things easily. Since it's his golden time now, it would be a shame not to do anything, which is why Shizuru secretly practices magic. He just can't wait until he turns 12 to attend magic school. His hand glows as small orbs emerge from his palm, addressing these floating objects to take care of him today too. When he was born, Shizuru just couldn't control spirits yet, but he could feel them. Instead, he talked to them, and that's when he found out that they can help him if he just lends them a bit of his magic. One thing about these spirits is that they will gather once you treat them with love and respect, so, like a fan? But back to his secret practice, Shizuru has been practicing how to use magic since birth, even to the point that he's beyond exhausted. Tiring as it may be, it allowed him to raise his limits each time. Right now he's able to do body strengthening thanks to his massive power pool. He stretches for a bit, wondering what today's training regimen should be when he suddenly dashes. From there, Shizuru practices his mobility and agility, leaping and swinging from one place to another. Once he's satisfied, he conjures a sword made out of lightning, jokingly calling it Lightning Blade, then relishes in it. Shizuru also conjured a whole bunch of other weapons from lightning, like a spear, an axe, and a bow. This time he notes that he needs more practice transforming weapons quickly, wanting to adopt the process of it, just like in the mangas he has read. He still couldn't get the timing right, which leaves him a bit frustrated. After all, a second's delay could cost him his life. He practices his weapon wielding, thinking about how he needs to transform weapons more quickly, and that he needs to master how to wield each one. For a 7-year-old kid, he sure has high standards for himself, no? This is because his body strengthening can't be used for a long time, as evidenced by his exhaustion now. As Shizuru lies under the shade, he thinks about how there's still so much to do. and it's pretty tiresome keeping this a secret from everybody. On the other hand, it would cause a commotion if someone finds out about this, most especially if it's his other mother who finds out. He'll be banished to the borders. Thinking of his other mother made Shizuru remember that his father wants to talk to him. With that, he got up and went back to the manor. He proceeds to his father's room, knocking as he asks if the old man called for him earlier. On the other side, an older man draped in a coat and with a matching intimidating aura calls out for Shizuru to come inside. Shizuru's father, Glenn Forblaze, is an excellent swordsman and fire magic user. He's often seen on battlefields on the front lines and is well known for fighting alongside other heroes during the last subjugation of the Demon King. Truly a man with more than 1,000 aura points. Right now, Glenn approaches Shizuru, then breaks into a smile, ushering him to sit down. Where did all that aura go? The older man asks Shizuru how he has been, and the latter answers nonchalantly. Glenn expected this much. After all, this 7-year-old of his stole a book from the knights. Shizuru tells him to give it a rest, since it has already been 2 years. Besides, he's still a little clumsy. Glenn could only nod at how his son shares the same insolent attitude as him, although he also credits it to Shizuru, who is now at his rebellious age. Shizuru claps back that at least he's more serious than his old man who snuck out and secretly joined an adventurer's party. But Glenn has selective hearing. His eyes shone suddenly, asking if his son wants to hear about his glorious time back then. Heck no. Shizuru was quick to shut him down. Glenn feels a little bummed about that, but it can't be helped. The man could only relish in his past adventures because he, as the son of a marquis, couldn't just go about fighting anywhere, let alone the front lines. Because he's the Forblaze family head, he must oversee the management of the family territory. What's pretty cool about this father-son duo is that they both have bold and straightforward attitudes that let them get along. And if Shizuru considers the age before he died in the previous world, Glenn acts more like a friend than a father to him. Back to important matters. Glenn tells him the reason why he summoned Shizuru is that he knows the boy still reads magic books. But that's not all. Glenn also knows his son practices magic without the older man's permission. All this time, Shizuru knew his father knew about him secretly practicing magic, but he didn't expect his old man to come out and ask him up front about it. Did Glenn call him out to scold him? If that's the case, there's only one thing Shizuru can do. Execute kawaii no jutsu. Mustering every cute fiber in his being, Shizuru appeals to his father cutely, feigning ignorance at his old man's claims. Glenn saw right through his crap and told him to cut it out, but now, Shizuru just intensified his cuteness, even using a little teary-eyed moment there. Glenn scolds him, saying Shizuru doesn't deserve to be called his son if the only thing he can do is manipulate others. If he wants Glenn's permission, then he needs to win over Glenn with his own power. Enough of that, back to business. Glenn says since Shizuru is pretty mature for his age, it's about time he should take care of his duties. The sudden shift in topic got the boy bewildered, but wait, since it's almost his birthday and there's sudden talk about magic, could this mean some good news? Shizuru made a complete 180 and excitedly told his father that he would carry out his duties. Of course, the old man beamed, proud that his son's living up to the Forblaze family name. With that said, Glenn told him that Shizuru would take over the management of the family territory starting tomorrow. What? That's not fair. Shizuru protests his father's decision, citing that his old man should have allowed him to use magic and take responsibility for the consequences. But Glenn doesn't care, making our hero pout because he's been had. Shizuru's not one to back down though, and tries blackmailing Glenn, saying he'll tell Arena that Glenn's skipping his duties as a lord. Glenn's petty as one can be because he claps back, saying he'll reveal to her that Shizuru uses magic. Now it's a battle of blackmail material. If that's how he wants to play it, should Shizuru also tell his mother what Glenn has been up to lately? After all, our hero knows about the girl at the pub, the one with the cute voice. Checkmate, how does Shizuru know about that? Our hero, on the other hand, smiles smugly, knowing he has the upper hand. Actually, the reason he knows about this is because he uses the spirits to transmit sounds and images, and in doing so, he accidentally created a way to locate a person. With a little experimentation, he can even hear what the person has to say and calls this skill lightning search. This is how he found out about his father's gallivanting. He didn't mean to in his defense, he just wanted to try it out. And the skill is limited to people he's close with within the vicinity. If his old man is dead set on ratting him out, then he has no choice but to use this skill as blackmail material, as much as he's against violating his father's privacy. Thankfully, his old man conceded, saying he was just fooling. What's more, he's about to allow Shizuru to use magic, which got the latter's attention. Is he being real? Can Glenn even convince Shizuru's mother about this? In a strained voice, his old man tells him he's got it covered. After all, he needs to keep his word as a man. This time, Shizuru lets out a genuine smile, beaming as he tells his father how trustworthy he is as a man. while also low-key threatening the latter that he'll spill about the girl at the pub if Glenn can't convince our hero's mother. Even Glenn's put off by how much Shizuru could say such scary things with an angelic face. Finally, Shizuru can use magic, savoring this feeling, but all of his enjoyment was cut short as his old man shares another piece of good news. This time it's Glenn's turn to be all smiles as he announces that Shizuru has a fiancé now. Shizuru's still reeling in Cloud 9, but that sentence snapped him back to reality. From the looks of it, Glenn's serious about it, so Shizuru decides he shouldn't push his father too far. So he decides to get on Glenn's good side, feigning enthusiasm and happiness about his father's decision. Glenn mirrors his reaction, and since Shizuru is excited, he has already set up a meeting with the other family for tomorrow. Now that's something Shizuru didn't anticipate. The next day, Marl wakes Shizuru up with her usual cheerfulness. It's a big day today after all. As usual, our hero nuzzles himself further into the sheets, saying he's still too tired. That's when Marl remembers that Shizuru and his father had a magic battle yesterday. Our hero says he has no choice because Glenn decides things by himself anyway. In hindsight, Shizuru already has an idea of what will happen to him as the second son of the Marquis family, but what he didn't expect is for it to happen so soon. Glenn told him yesterday that he will be engaged to the second daughter of the Lorelei family. Their clan is known for using fire magic and even has a higher rank than the Four-Blaze. Shizuru thought about what his old man said and quickly deduced who he was referring to. Glenn assured him, saying his fiancée is pretty and kind, but Shizuru already knew who he was talking about. It's the lady without a blessing, right? The Marquis could only hang his head low, wondering aloud how his son could already know about that. Shizuru simply states that it's thanks to magic. The lady without a blessing is a title that seems somewhat like an insult to her ladyship. Even though she comes from one of the most prestigious families in the land, nobody knows why she has no blessings or any kind of magic. From the looks of it, hers is a pretty rare case, and at the time she and Shizuru became trending topics, with the latter known for his thunder magic. Glenn strictly tells Shizuru to never call her that title in her face or in front of her father, even if the latter's a bit of an idiot. Instead of answering that, Shizuru asks his old man if this is okay, since there's a chance that his future children could bear no magic. Glenn couldn't believe this kid. How could he act so differently about this kind of stuff? Any normal and sane person would say they're more than happy to be engaged to a lovely fiancé. Even though Glenn took a pretty lighthearted approach to this, Shizuru could see that his engagement is fueled by political reasons. There are a couple of possibilities already running in his mind. For one, maybe his old man wants to have a lady from the Duke family for his first wife, so he could let her manage the family later on. By doing so, he could attract other ladies with different powers as Shizuru's partners and use them to his advantage later, especially when they needed a power balance for the family. So even if none of the children from the first family possess lightning magic, there's a chance that a family from the concubine could possess it. Well, it's not like Shizuru has a choice anyway. So with a beaming smile, he gives his father the reaction that he wanted, saying he's happy to be engaged. Glenn was still relishing the moment, but Shizuru cut it short as they started their magic battle half a moment later. So now, back to the present. Shizuru fixes his tie, thinking about his first magic battle yesterday. Meanwhile, Marl's even more charmed by how her young master looks so good in a brand new suit. Now that he thought about it, Shizuru asks her if everyone else knows about the whole predicament. But Marl feigns ignorance. She's more excited about what Shizuru's fiancé looks like and has heard that the young lady is beautiful. Her young master, on the other hand, only hopes that his fiancé is kind and isn't arrogant. Speaking of girls, Marl offers to lend him some of her romantic books, but Shizuru refuses. He knows he's a fujoshi with all those boys' love content. He didn't have to expose her like that. Besides, Marl also has a collection of regular romantic books, you know? Still, Shizuru couldn't stop worrying. If only reading could solve any relationship problems, then, as someone who has read his fair share of mangas and novels in his previous life, Shizuru should be hailed as Love Master by now. Marl notices him worrying again, so this time she puts her hands on his shoulders, assuring him that everything will be alright. Like, please, just look at his handsome face. The maid's reassuring words worked like magic because now Shizuru's a lot calmer than before. In his previous life, he didn't have any relationships, so there were a lot of things he didn't get to experience, like going on dates or even holding hands with someone. Now that he's ready, Shizuru goes to his father to welcome their visitors. It didn't take too long before Magnus, the father of Shizuru's fiancée, finally arrived in their carriage. He ushers a young girl forward, introducing his daughter. Out came a girl with long dark hair, and Shizuru could have sworn there were flowers everywhere. The young lady gives a curtsy and bows to Shizuru, while the latter is dumbstruck by her beauty. Our bashful hero bows in return, introducing himself and welcoming his fiancée, Lucina. She keeps her head bowed, saying how she has heard a lot about him and that she's excited to be his fiancée. This time, Glenn speaks up and commends her for being such a strong lady, while Magnus relishes the compliments. Lucina is his pride after all. If anything, Magnus has also heard that Shizuru's a gifted genius, only for Glenn to downplay his son's talents lightheartedly. He even reveals how Shizuru attacked him once when he let his guard down, causing our hero to panic at suddenly being dragged down like this. Upon hearing that, Magnus's demeanor changed, adding that he's interested to hear more about it. Now, Shizuru felt the air shift. For sure, Magnus would grill him as his would-be father-in-law. Well, now that introductions were made, Glenn and Magnus took their leave since they had matters to discuss. This leaves Shizuru with Lucina alone, low-key panicking at what to do next. He decides to lead the conversation, asking about Lucina's stay abroad for the next 3 months, and offers to tour her around the manor. She smiles politely and tells him to call her casually, a sentiment Shizuru echoes. But Lucina tells him that she cannot do that. She knows their marriage is not a normal one. Someone like her who does not have a blessing can't wish for a normal marriage, and she knows for a fact that Shizuru is helping her. While still giving him a polite smile, Lucina tells him that she's happy enough as it is and promises not to become a burden to him once he achieves his full glory. She also says she'll help him as much as she can, so he should just treat her like any ideal girl in his mind. Shizuru was quiet for a moment before asking her if someone told her to say all of that. The sad look in her eyes is telling enough, but Lucina answers that what she said stems from the bottom of her heart. Shizuru turns away and is about to lead them when he faces her again, saying she should prepare herself because he promises to make her smile. With every suave in her body, Marl imitates what Shizuru told Lucina, like any bishunin in a shoujo manga. Our hero feels embarrassed at the reenactment, but Marl wasn't finished. She went on and on about how her young master could say things like that, which further proves that he's all grown up now. As it turns out, Marl was among the bushes when Shizuru made that proclamation, so now she refuses to let him live that down. If anything, the maid is curious if Shizuru fell in love at first sight the moment he saw Lady Lucina, which isn't surprising because the lady is really cute. Shizuru denies it, but the blush on his face tells otherwise. Well, it's really not like that for him, it's just that he saw a reflection of his older self in her. That's the reason he said all that, but yeah, it is cringe. In the end, he caved in and asked Marl how he did. The latter answers that he did just fine and he should talk to Lucina more, something Shizuru agrees to. It turns out it's a lot easier said than done. He tries to know more about her by asking her favorite food, only for Lucina to say that there's nothing she can't eat. She doesn't get homesick or anything, assuring Shizuru that he doesn't need to worry about her. And when he tried to ask her out to just hang around, the young lady refused since she didn't want to bother him. She's like a dead fish. Shizuru returns to his quarters, defeated, while Marl worries over him. His conversation with Lucina only made him think that she hates him, but Marl doesn't think so. The maid believes that the young lady is keeping up with her formalities and keeps things to herself. Still, even Marl knows that it must have been hard for the young Lucina. Shizuru thinks so too. After all, the young lady is just 7 years old, the age when she's supposed to rely on others and be herself. Instead of doing that, Lucina has to act with caution so she doesn't express any of her own genuine emotions. He's pretty sure Lucina underwent a lot of hard things by herself, and it also makes Shizuru wonder if the adults around her treated her well. Doesn't her father notice this at all? But out of all that, the thing that makes Shizuru the angriest is that he can't even protect a girl like her. So much for being a hero. He was so deep in his thoughts that Marl had to call out to him. That's when it dawned upon him that he was using his magic subconsciously, feeling even more frustrated at his lapses. Still, Shizuru thanks Marl for doing so, and the maid was more than happy to help out. Since Shizuru is overthinking things again, Marl points out that any girl would be uncomfortable if they saw him like this. Besides, they should take it slow since the young master and Lucina had only just met. Now that she thought about it, Shizuru's 8th birthday is just around the corner, no? Now that he thought about it, she's right. Speaking of events, Marl says any girl would feel nervous taking part in such a celebration, sharing pointers about the young lady. Marl thinks that the young lady will like sweets, giving Shizuru an idea. Eureka! He looks over to Marl, finally seeing her in a new light, but it's just another day for the latter. This is her area of expertise after all. She even offers to lend her books to Shizuru, but he cuts her off flat. The sad boy moment is gone. Shizuru gets up, hyped with all the things he needs to prepare while Marl sends him off. Just like that, Shizuru's 8th birthday came in no time. Lord Magnus and Lady Lucina came, greeting our hero while Shizuru happily welcomed them. He shows off the feast he had the servants prepare, leaving the father-daughter duo to enjoy themselves. One of the servants appears beside Shizuru, asking the young master if he's okay with celebrating his birthday with such a small audience. He tells the older man that he is, thinking that a large crowd would make Lucina uncomfortable. Unlike him, the older man and the other servants feel frustrated, thinking that the guests should be treated more lavishly, especially since they took the time to come here. To that, Shizuru can only apologize. However, he remembers Glenn telling him before that their family rarely has any guests to begin with, Since the Four-Blaze family is seen as a troublesome bunch, Shizuru tries to redirect the conversation, asking the older man to just enjoy the occasion, and that was enough to get the latter to collect himself. Despite the servant's frustrations, Shizuru sees a lot of his guests enjoying the celebration. He was right in hosting a buffet-style party so even the servants could come out and enjoy it. Just then, he was surprised to brush elbows with the head chef. Well, it's been a while since the older man has seen guests in their manner, so it made him want to see them for a bit. Well, he came out just in time because the guests had just started their meal. They saw Magnus and Lucina take their first bite and enjoy the meal. The head chef and Shizuru felt happy seeing everyone else's reaction. The older man also commends the young master for his excellent choice of meal, but it wasn't so hard for him. If anything, he kind of misses the dishes from his previous world, which is why he tries asking the head chef if he could recreate them. Shizuru had his mind working at maximum effort, trying to remember the dishes based on his fading memory, and thankfully all of it bore good results. The dishes were so good that they ended up including them in the Four-Blaze family menu. Just then, Shizuru tells one of the servants to serve the dishes, so out they came in heaps of plates. As for him, he calls out to Lucina, asking the young lady if she can join him for dessert. The undecided Lucina looks to her father for permission, and Magnus urges her to go since the prince himself asked for her personally. The two of them went to the balcony, where the mere act of pulling out her chair made Lucina panic. Shizuru assures her that it's okay, and in the end, she allows our hero to do so while he asks what she thinks of the food. Lucina tells him that she's surprised since it's her first time seeing those kinds of dishes. He's happy to hear that and is even more excited to show off the desserts as he finally uncovers them. There's a slice of cake, pudding, cookies, and all sorts of yummy desserts that made her eyes twinkle. Shizuru hand feeds her one of the cookies he helped make, but the sudden PDA almost made Lucina spiral. He notices her reaction and apologizes, remembering that it's out of etiquette, but Lucina replies that it's because she feels shy doing this in front of everyone. Shizuru motions to the closed doors behind them, saying no one can see them, save for Marl, who was cheering for her master from the other side. Lucina looked over her sides one last time before biting into the cookie. She's surprised by how delicious it was, while Shizuru is just about ready to hand her the pudding next, while his inner self is already jumping for joy. He takes a spoonful of the pudding and is about to feed Lucina again, but the latter tells him that she can do it by herself. This time Shizuru uses his boyish charms and poor Lucina was quick to give in. She took a bite and was also surprised at how delicious it was, with Shizuru explaining that it's called pudding. This time Lucina's eyes shone subconsciously, asking for another bite, so our hero happily obliges her silent request. For the first time, Lucina calls out to him for teasing her, but Shizuru smiles it off. She quickly collects herself, thanking him for treating her to such delicious meals, even though she's a bit embarrassed about it. They finally notice the fireflies floating around the manor, with some of them illuminating Lucina's beauty. Shizuru can't help but stare at his fiancée when suddenly, she apologizes for being the only one having fun. Shizuru was about to counter when, did he hear that right? Did she say she's having fun? For the first time. Lucina smiles genuinely and tells him that she is. Another heart-throbbing moment for Shizuru, who's smitten with her, hoping they'll also enjoy the next occasion too. Lucina smiles and the two stare off into the beautiful night sky. It was a new day, with Shizuru busy with his book and Marl cleaning. The latter breaks the silence, wondering if Lucina is alright. She feels bad that after all the efforts the young master made to get closer to her, she had to leave so soon. Shizuru closes his book. Unlike Marl, he's not too worried about it. It just so happens that the Four-Blaze territory is along the way to the Leafus family, making it a transfer spot. Besides, Lucina told him that she'll visit them once she gets back. Marl knows this, but she still feels a little sad. Shizuru, on the other hand, feels like Lucina has opened up to him ever since his birthday. Instead of feeling down, he refused to do so, and has already put his head up, much to Marl's annoyance. Now that she thought about it, Marl commented on how Shizuru had been looking chirpy lately. The latter thinks so too. So Marl remarks that it must be because her young master no longer needs to practice magic secretly. She knew all about it all along. Glenn kept his promise and managed to convince Elizabeth to let Shizuru practice magic. But of course, there are a couple of ground rules. Shizuru beams because now he's allowed to practice at the magic forest with bodyguards accompanying him. Marl remains with her back turned against Shizuru, and when she refuses to look at him, our hero asks if she's angry. In a flat voice laced with anger, she tells him she's not angry. After all, Marl told Shizuru countless times not to do anything dangerous, and yet he continues to do so. Yep, she's definitely mad. Shizuru apologizes genuinely, so Marl can't exactly keep being mad at him when he apologizes like that. To be honest, she's not angry, she's just worried. But if it's Shizuru, then she knows everything will be alright. Our hero's mood instantly improved, babbling about how nice the spirits were and that he's been practicing magic for 8. Oops! He clamps his mouth shut as Marl waits for the next word that comes after 8. Shizuru tries to play it cool and corrects himself. What he meant was baiting. But yeah, sure, Marl just plays along. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. She tells him not to do anything risky as she finally excuses herself. In his mind, Shizuru wonders what will happen if she ever finds out that he has been practicing magic for the last 8 years. Since it didn't happen, I guess we'll never know. Shizuru pumps his fist in excitement, looking forward to the field training soon, when he hears the door open again. He turns and asks if Marl forgot something. What welcomes him instead is his older brother, greeting him in a loud voice. Meet Homura, he's the first son of the Four-Blaze family and the next Earl. Homura usually stays at the dorms in the Magic Academy, but for some reason he managed to come home today. Now both brothers are face to face, with Homura asking Shizuru why he's not happy to see his older brother. Instead of answering, Shizuru asks if Homura's on holiday. But like him, his older brother didn't answer that. Homura glares as he tells Shizuru that he already heard all about it. He grabs Shizuru by the collar, shaking him fervently as Homura whines about his younger brother going to the magic forest. It's not fair. He wants to go too. The latter answers that by the time he goes to the forest, Homura would have already been back at the dorms. Homura answers that he can just extend the summer holiday for a bit. After all, they're the terrifying Four-Blaze brothers. They do everything together. Shizuru claps back, reminding his older brother how he left him behind when they snuck out a while ago. Homura wholeheartedly told him then that he should get caught, reminding Shizuru that Homura shares the same arrogant blood as Glenn. No surprise there, he definitely got that attitude from Glenn. Be that as it may, it's also the reason why he and Homura are both close despite having different mothers. Back to the matter at hand, Shizuru concedes and tells Homura that if his stepmother allows it, then he's cool with the latter accompanying him at the magic forest. Homura's eyes twinkled upon hearing that, and he left instantly to go ask his mother for permission. Shizuru already knows that it's a lost cause, so he was shocked when Homura returned a little while later. Not only that, but his older brother also looks like he's in a good mood. So did Elizabeth agree after all? Homura quickly debunked that idea when he told Shizuru that they should just break out. What's even more surprising is that the older boy looks as if he's just asking Shizuru to play outside. Homura starts rambling about why his mother wouldn't let him go, all while Shizuru nods in silence. In Homura's language, this just means his mother wants them to do their best and sneak out, right? The elder Four-Blaze already accepts this idea wholeheartedly, and is about to head off until Shizuru holds him back. Despite using his strengthening skill, Shizuru's shocked to see that his older brother remains unfazed by his skill. Seeing Homura's reaction, that's when he realized that his brother is also using body strengthening. No surprise there. Homura's 5 years older than him after all, plus he's bulkier. So it's not surprising that his older brother is also using body strengthening. Heck, he can't even pierce Homura's skin. The two already know what they're doing to each other, with Shizuru saying he's acting like a kid. With his current condition, Shizuru knows he can't win against his brother, so Homura takes it that the former will be coming with him. Shizuru asks if his brother has a plan, and without skipping a beat, Homura says they should knock the guards out and sneak away. Of course, Shizuru's totally against that. They'll get caught in a heartbeat. Homura counters that they should knock the guard out even before they could capture them. Well, his plan is not too bad, but Shizuru also has something in mind. Homura is all ears as his younger brother suggests they should sneak out without being found out by the guards. If they do that, they won't get chased, and they can take their sweet time. If the guards happen to find them, they can just deny it. So basically, it's a stealth mission. Furthermore, Shizuru suggests it's better if they go at it alone and meet up later in the forest. If one of them gets caught, the guards won't know the other one is sneaking out too. Easy, right? Homura's on board with the plan, so they just need to not get caught, right? With that, he went ahead to the door to try it out first while Shizuru bid him goodbye. As soon as Homura's gone, Shizuru calmly sits by the table hearing all the ruckus his brother is making. Not a moment later, he hears Homura get caught. Shizuru knows there's no point in sneaking out, especially since he could lose his privilege once he does something wrong. But then again, how come he feels like the villain right now? Well, no point in crying over spilled milk. Shizuru and his bodyguards head to the magic forest later, which is located on the southern side of the Four-Blaze territory. Before they let him start to train, the three guards brief the young master, but the latter already knows. No wandering too deep into the forest. Just then, another voice joins the conversation and calls Shizuru slow. It's Homura. The appearance of the elder Four-Blaze brother instantly shifted the guards' moods. Is Master Shizuru planning something with Master Homura? Shizuru tries to clear his name. For all he knows, Homura should be at the academy by now since he got caught yesterday. As a true Glen Four-Blaze son, Homura brags that he managed to escape earlier that morning. Speaking of that plan, Homura apologizes to Shizuru since he always had to drag his younger brother whenever he got caught. That statement sounds shady enough as it is, causing the guards to become more wary towards Shizuru, while our hero tries to keep calm and smile. Can he shut up for a hot minute? Well, now that he's here, they should head out. So the brothers led the wary guards, with Shizuru feeling a little worried. But wait, this could be an opportunity for him. Without looking back, he tells the guards that his brother is the one who needs protection since he's the Four-Blaze heir. What does he mean by saying this? A moment later, he activates his skill and makes a run for it. His movement was too fast for the others, who weren't able to see through what Shizuru just did. They thought he had just become invisible. Before zooming off, Shizuru made sure to tell the guards to keep an eye out for Homura for him. The guards, meanwhile, were still trying to strategize what to do, but seeing Shizuru pull something risky like that just made the older Four-Blaze go at it more. To make sure he stays put, the three guards crowd him, holding on to Homura so he doesn't run away despite his protests. Meanwhile, Shizuru's still putting some distance between them, thankful that Homura's appearance enabled him to escape them. Just then, he felt something not far from where he was. A weak magic power. Shizuru easily pinpointed the location. After all, it's always a good idea to scout the area first using lightning magic, and it gives him the advantage of having a good glimpse of the place. Shizuru heads straight to where the weak magic is, thinking there have to be some monsters in the area. True enough, he hears rustling behind him. He turns around wondering if Homura had already caught up to him, only to see a goblin emerge from the bushes. For the first time, Shizuru comes face to face with a monster, besides the dragon from when he was a baby. Looking at the little fella, the goblin's eyes are filled with rage and killing intent, a far cry from the guards he fought mock battles with. He feels excitement flowing in his veins until it comes bubbling out of him. With star-studded eyes, he wonders aloud what weapon he should use to fight the goblin. Before he could decide which weapon to use, the goblin lunged at Shizuru, who managed to block its attack. Thankfully, he managed to activate his strengthening magic before the goblin made contact with him. Right now, he thinks he just needs to focus on the fight and not think too much. So with that, he conjures a lightning weapon and cuts the goblin down. As soon as he did, Shizuru realized that he was actually surrounded by these monsters, around 20 of them. The goblins start to creep toward our hero as he stands idly, wondering what to do. The guards hurried over to where they heard the commotion. It didn't take long for them to see Shizuru and call out to the young master. As soon as they come face to face with him, they panic, seeing the blood on his cheeks. They ask if he's okay, but our hero assures them that he's okay. This isn't his blood. Looking around him, the guards wonder if these monster corpses are the work of the young master. The latter claims that it is, leaving the guards impressed. They were busy looking over the damage while Shizuru was already activating his magic. Before the monster slaughter, he had already deduced that a horde of monsters was on their way to his position when they noticed something strange. Shizuru felt something was off, then quickly followed it with a shout. That startled the guards again. Somewhere else, our hero noticed that a horde of monsters was quickly dwindling in number, as if they were being slaughtered. That's when he finally noticed Homura is nowhere to be seen, so he asks the guards, "Where's his brother?" They told him that his elder brother had left them and vanished deep into the forest. He knew it. This was all Homura's doing. Shizuru hurriedly directs them to where his brother is, so the guards have no choice but to follow. Along the way, they talk about how Shizuru has become dependable despite being so young. On top of that, they also talk about how Shizuru's always looking out for the welfare of his older brother. Such closeness is pretty uncommon, especially since they have different mothers. Unknown to them, Shizuru is panicking like crazy because his brother will probably wipe out all of the monsters. There we have it, the prince's ulterior motive. Just then, he tells everyone to stop as a giant goblin smashes the ground from where they would have stood if they had taken another step. He checks first if the guards are okay, and the three older men affirm that they are. If anything, they're shaking in their boots as they come face to face with the giant in front of them. Even if there are 3 of them, the chances of winning are pretty slim. Still, they're sword guards of the Four-Blaze family. Even if they have to sacrifice their lives, they must ensure that the young master returns home safely. They just finished their pep talk battle cry when they noticed the young master joined in for the latter. Curious, they wonder why he did that, but Shizuru just told them that he was just taken in by their dedication. Anyway, can they just stay here for a bit? Before they could even answer, Shizuru activated his magic and created a thunder barrier around them, suggesting they stay inside. The guards ask what he's planning to do, just as our hero runs off to take care of business. In his mind, at least the guards won't be getting in his way during the fight. Panicked, they try calling out after him, but Shizuru already conjures his lightning sword to go toe-to-toe with the goblin. Suddenly, the wild Homura appears, kicking the goblin and taking the monster out in an instant. The older Four-Blaze nurses his foot. What the heck was that goblin made of? But Shizuru's already all over him, asking his older brother why he stole his thunder. In Homura's eyes, he just saved Shizuru, right? Judging by the blood on Homura's cheek, isn't that enough killing for him? Surely he should leave some monsters for his little brother too, right? The elder Forblaze comments that he's just warming up, so Shizuru should just stay behind his back. The guards, on the other hand, are worried for them. This isn't really the time to butt heads. Meanwhile, the goblin Homura kicked finally regained his senses and cried out. A more horrifying roar answers the cry as the guards start to panic. They know it's him. This creature normally nestles deep within the forest, but judging by the cry, they should start bailing now. Unlike them, Shizuru and Homura are all giddy and excited at the incoming monster. But first, they need to find out who can beat this goblin first. Just then, Shizuru notices something and points it out to his brother. Homura turns to look, and our hero uses this as a chance to bolt. He knows he's no match for his older brother. However, when it comes to speed, he knows he's faster. Before the goblin could even defend himself, he cut it down. That felt good. Shizuru was already relishing the feeling, but unfortunately, it was Homura's blade that took it down. The latter threw his sword at the goblin's back. As the monster collapsed, Shizuru wondered if his brother really threw his sword from such a distance. If he did, how reckless of him. What an idiot. Because of that, Homura calls dibs on the giant goblin. The guards were shocked to finally set their eyes on the horrifying cry from before. It's actually a mutated high-ranking monster. Since Homura already called dibs, Shizuru decides he'll just take the other, and by that he means the pack of wild wolves that have started to crowd around them. From the looks of it, the pack was attracted by the smell of the goblin's blood. Shizuru quickly conjures a different weapon, his thunder bow, and rains arrows on the mutts. He quickly shifts to Thunder Spear for close combat, then changes it again to a battle axe. Looking at him like this, the guards now believe that their young master has been coming to the magic forest to train. At first they thought the goblin slaughter was just a prank, but it turns out he's the one who took all of them down. Shizuru conjures a whip next, remembering how he almost burned the whole forest during his last battle with the goblins. A real-life battlefield can really provide a lot of experience for a newbie, no? With that, he switched back to using a thunder sword. He sneaks a peek over Homura and sees him enjoying the fight. Even if he also wanted to fight the giant goblin, he's happy that his older brother seems to be enjoying himself. Just then, one of the guards tells him to watch his back as a goblin sneakily creeps up to him. They tell him to run, but Shizuru beams because there's another one. The guards could only facepalm themselves, seeing how the young master looks as if he just found a new toy. Unlike the other two goblins, this monster before him doesn't have a killing intent. Perhaps it's one who enjoys torturing someone who looks weak like Shizuru. Pretty arrogant of him, which would cost the monster its life. The goblin braces its knuckles, punching Shizuru, but our hero was ready and chose this weapon. There was a flash of light as Shizuru actually matched the goblin's fist with his own. The guards were shocked, even more so than the goblin. As its fist got smacked away, Shizuru used this opening to hit him in the solar plexus, but the former managed to catch his fist. This time, the guards call him out for not only fighting with his bare fists, but also because he still has the strength of a child. That's when one of the guards noticed that the monster was startled. Shizuru, on the other hand, tells the goblin that he's weaker than him. Shizuru lands a square punch on its cheek, and as it falls, our hero readies his finishing move, Thunderstorm. Just then, Homura pops up and sees that Shizuru's side is already swept clean. R checks out his brother's work, and let's say it's too gruesome for the camera. The brothers smiled and started laughing. Homura comments that he can't say smack if Shizuru toasted the hell out of that goblin. While the two brothers share a wholesome moment, their guards could only stand in awe at how exceptional the Forblaze brothers are. Meanwhile, Lucina is finally on the way back to Forblaze territory with tears in her eyes. Okay, who are we going to smack? We ride at dawn. It was another day at the Forblaze Manor with Shizuru sharing a meal with Lucina. But the young lady is so out of it, prompting Shizuru to ask if she's alright. Instead of answering directly, she apologizes and thanks him for his concern. Our hero holds his tongue, noticing the evident change in Lucina's demeanor. A few days ago, the young lady arrived at their manor, with Shizuru happily welcoming his fiancée. He runs straight to her carriage asking about her journey when he notices Magnus and Lucina look different than usual. The older man assisted his daughter, explaining to the young master that Lucina's just a little tired. With that said, Magnus asked if Shizuru could just let his daughter rest for the day. Shizuru bids her to rest well, but in his mind, he knows she's not just tired from the journey alone. Judging from both their reactions, something must have happened at Marquis Rufus's territory. Back in his room, Shizuru shares all of this with Marl, asking the latter if she has found out what happened to Lucina. Marl says she tried contacting one of the servants she knows at the Lorelei family, but she couldn't finish her sentence. This just made Shizuru even more curious as Marl finally revealed what she knew. As it turns out, Lucina's grandparents refused to accept her because she's known as the Lady Without a Blessing. Shizuru is both disappointed and pissed. How could they be so harsh on a 7-year-old girl? His grip on his pants got tighter, his brows furrowing further, as he couldn't get the words out of his mouth. Instead, he reminisces about the time he and Lucina spent one afternoon at the gazebo. At the time, Shizuru commented that Lucina looked happy, leaving the latter surprised. After a moment, she replies that maybe she is, and even gives a little smile. She told Shizuru that if she goes to the Rufus territory, she might hear stories about her mother. Lucina's mother, Marina, was born weak and was told earlier on how she would never be able to have children. Despite what they said Marina gave birth to Lucina at the cost of her own life. Back to Lucina and Shizuru. She tells him that she's also looking forward to meeting her grandparents, but Shizuru's just happy to see her looking forward to something. Well, Shizuru tells her that he'll feel a little lonely once she's gone. That comment just made her blush and stutter, so Shizuru eased it up by saying he's just joking. She pouted at him then and asked him to stop teasing her. Our hero only smiled because in his mind what he said was true. Still, he wished Lucina would have a good time at her grandparents' house, something she also hoped for. Back to the present. Shizuru grows even more frustrated as he remembers how Lucina was looking forward to that trip, with Marl being mindful of him. In his defense, he thought he and Lucina were in similar situations after what happened to his mother. But from the looks of it, they're not. Shizuru has a family and servants who treat him well. He lives each day to the fullest and is highly regarded as the miracle baby. Lucina, on the other hand, lost her mother and is even called the lady without a blessing. As if that's not bad enough, her grandparents treat her as if she doesn't exist. All this time, Lucina has been living a life planned out by others. Seeing how he's living such a good life, it feels as if he can't even do anything for Lucina. There was a pregnant pause before Marl told him that he could do something for Lucina. He just needed to drag her into his life. Now that's something Shizuru hasn't considered before. The image of pulling a lonely and crying Lucina into his fortunate life flashes in his mind. Shizuru raises his head in shock, an act that startles Marl. Was her suggestion strange? After a pause, he tells her that she's right. Shizuru smacks his cheeks to slap some sense into him, so he thanks Marl and heads off. But before he did, Shizuru told Marl that he loves her, something that surprises the latter. Marl could only giggle at how handful this little brother of hers is. Out in the halls, Shizuru calls out to Lucina. The latter curtsies in greeting when she notices the young master approaching her. Shizuru says they won't be having breakfast in the manor, which catches her off guard with how close he is. So where were they having breakfast then? Suddenly, Shizuru grabs her hand and pulls her as they start running together. She asks where they're going, but our hero only tells her that it's just a little further, and that they're breaking out the front door today. The two children ran past the maids, with the ladies even finding the two adorable as they ran together. Both Shizuru and Lucina were already ahead as the maids wondered where they would have their breakfast. Wait a minute, they look like they're heading to the entrance. That's when it finally dawned on them. The ladies tried calling out to Shizuru to stop, but they were too late. All the while, Shizuru keeps a tight hold on Lucina's hand as he tells her that she's coming with him today. He uses his magic and tells her to hold tight as the magic flows to her hand, and he carries her in his arms. This almost sent her reeling. Too much PDA. Of course, she tells him to put her down, but he refuses to do so. Besides, she promised him that she'd do anything he asked. While carrying Lucina, Shizuru jumped over the manor's front gate, making Lucina scared, so she had to hold onto his neck. Shizuru and Lucina managed to escape with the maids already out of breath as they failed to stop them. Gallia is a fortress city located close to the borderlands near the Demon Lands and is managed by the Forblaze family. Among the bustling streets, Lucina emerges in a new outfit, much to the glee of Shizuru. Not bad at all. Now she looks like a commoner. The old man who manages the shop also nods in agreement. Moreover, he's pretty surprised that the young master brought someone else with him for the first time, since Shizuru tends to sneak out alone. Before the older man could spill more about Shizuru, our hero pushed Lucina out the door, but not before thanking the older man for helping them out. Just then, Shizuru remembered something, so he made Lucina stand still as he put her hair up in a ponytail. He explains that they need to look a little different since they came out secretly. This prompts Lucina to ask what he plans to do with his look. Using a little of his lightning magic, he zaps his hair up, completely changing his look with a simple updo. Now that their disguises are done, he extends his hand to Lucina, making the latter shy away. She can walk fine alone, and in her mind it's too embarrassing. In answer, our hero points out that there are a lot of people, so she may get lost in the crowd. After a pause, she takes Shizuru's hand, allowing the young master to lead her. Shizuru explains their route and how they'll be taking the side street so they can reach the main one. When they finally reached the main street, Lucina was amazed at how many more people were in the area. Moreover, everybody looks so happy, saying it must be because they're at peace with the demons right now. Suddenly, she turns quiet, catching Shizuru's attention. He turns in the direction she's looking and sees a mother and daughter who are happily shopping. Before she could mull over this, Shizuru grabbed her hand as he led her further into the city. Now that she remembers it, the young master said that they were supposed to be in secret at the city. So does that mean they'll also be conducting an inspection? Shizuru stops in his tracks and rides along with her deduction. If this is the case, Lucina points out that they wouldn't be in trouble because they have no bodyguards. Shizuru counters that having bodyguards also poses several problems. For one, they'd have to travel by carriage and they need to clear every store they go to. For him, doing all that just takes out all the fun in this. So in Lucina's understanding, it meant the young master won't be able to get close and personal with the people on the street. Again, Shizuru decides to go along with this deduction of hers. Plus, she's not entirely wrong. And she's all fired up to help Shizuru however she can today. Our hero sniffs something in the air and instantly pulls Lucina to lead them to the first place they will be inspecting for that day. The two kids found themselves at a stand selling barbecued skewers. Lucina asked what it was, but Shizuru went ahead and ordered 2. As the older man looked up, his eyes lit up seeing this little boy taking such a cute girl out on a date. Lucina frowns and finds him rude. She then proceeds to ask the older man if he has no idea who he's referring to. Before Lucina could reveal Shizuru's identity, the latter clamped his hand over her mouth to shut her up. Laughing in agreement at how this is a date. To Lucina, Shizuru whispers and reminds her that they're in an undercover inspection right now, just as the older man laughs along. Before long, he hands Shizuru the skewers and tells him that the skewers are piping hot. Our hero fishes for 2 coppers in his fanny pack and pays the older man before they go on their way. Shizuru has a better understanding of their currency right now and remembers how 1 copper is equivalent to 100 yen, which is a pretty reasonable price for skewers. He spots a bench not far from where they are and hands Lucina her share of the skewers as they sit. Rather than munch on it, she stares at the skewers, which makes Shizuru panic. Does she not like chicken skewers? It's not that. How is she supposed to eat this when she doesn't have any cutlery at hand? Wow, spoken like a true princess, first world problems. At least she's not grossed out by the food, so Shizuru demonstrates how, biting it right then and there. He even lets his old self slip, adding about how much nicer it would have been if he had had any beers. On the other hand, Lucina is frozen in shock. Was this too much for the likes of a noble like her? Just when he thought he was wondering if he messed up, Lucina looked over the people around them and saw they ate the skewers the same way. Finally, she takes a bite as Shizuru looks over anxiously. Her eyes instantly lit up by how delicious the skewer was, marveling at the chicken's tender insides and charred bits on the outside. Phew, Shizuru's happy that she likes it, so after their quick bite, they hung around and started to people watch. Soon, Lucina notices a building where a lot of people come and go, so she asks what the place is for. The young master answers that it's the Adventurers Guild. Adventurers help people by defeating monsters. To that, Lucina asks if they're different from knights, and our hero points out that a knight's job is focused more on helping the territory and the nobles. Adventurers, on the other hand, help everyone. Lucina's eyes sparkle, commenting on how it must be a wonderful occupation, though Shizuru adds that it's not as noble as she thinks. Suddenly, the church bells start ringing, making both kids turn. Shizuru quips that someone must be getting married, getting Lucina excited again. The two of them exchange looks before they decided to check it out. Both kids go over to the church just in time to see the newly married couple exiting the church. Although everyone's in a festive mood, Shizuru starts to feel something is off. Based on his magic, no people from the mansion should be following them, but for some reason he's detecting that some people are following the two of them. Thanks to his lightning search, he deduced that there are 3 of them. He suspects it must be the 3 guys behind them. Those folks must have found out that Shizuru and Lucina have money. It's no surprise since Lucina's refined demeanor must have given their status away. Shizuru can blend in easily, but the young lady? Not so much. Since he's at it, Shizuru decides to focus his lightning search on finding out who these 3 people are, when suddenly he feels an ominous pressure. He looks around, wondering where this heavy aura is coming from, this darkness. He takes a deep breath and focuses his lightning search even more as he finally pinpoints its exact location. It's right beside him, coming from Lucina, but not quite as Shizuru notices her shadow filled with ominous eyes. This discovery just made Shizuru wonder what she is, with the latter unaware and enjoying the married couple in front of her. The clueless Lucina runs over Shizuru, holding a strawberry candy on a stick. She happily shows it off to him. Meanwhile, Shizuru eyes her shadow. That dark being was a spirit, right? Spirits are categorized into 3 levels: lower, intermediate, and higher. Spirits are also known to obey spirits that are higher than themselves, and the most powerful one is called the Great Spirit. Shizuru has only seen one high-ranking spirit before, and it was when Glenn made a deal with it. If this were the case, our hero thinks that this spirit must be the reason why Lucina is the lady without a blessing. But now that he knows all about this, it leaves him in a pinch. Should he tell Lucina about it? But if he did, Wouldn't the spirit start to act up and become violent? Lucina finally notices Shizuru being quiet, so she asks if something's wrong. He tries to play it cool, saying he wishes he had also bought the same candy. Thinking that that's the end of their conversation, Shizuru goes back to thinking that maybe he'll tell her once he verifies what the spirit is. To his surprise, Lucina feeds him the candy, catching Shizuru blushing and off guard. Meanwhile, the former giggles, saying this is her thanks for what he did during his birthday party. He didn't expect her to act so boldly, and just when he's about to bite one of the strawberries, the three hoodlums finally approach them. The bald man, who seems to be their leader, notes the kids' nice-looking clothes. The other quips that they can exchange or sell them for a large amount, happy that they caught a nice pair this time. Instead of being scared, Shizuru acts pretty nonchalant until he notices Lucina has dropped the candy. She hides behind him, trembling as he assures her that everything will be alright. Meanwhile, one of the guys ushered the kids to follow him in a dark alley, while the other two trailed behind Shizuru. Our hero was so annoyed at the sudden interruption that he kicked the guy in front of him square in the butt. This prompted the other goon to ask what the hell Shizuru was doing. That's his line. Shizuru glares at these hoodlums, pissed that they ruined his date with Lucina, igniting sparks in his body. The dark-haired small fry realizes that this is no ordinary kid, he's a noble magic user. Well, Baldy from before is even more pleased to know that. Plus, this noble is just a kid. What could he possibly do with his magic? We're glad he asked because Shizuru went ham on them, zapping the goons unconscious. It didn't even take a minute for Shizuru to clear these losers, and after he's done, he checks to see if Lucina is okay. At first, she averts her gaze from him, and when she finally looks up, her eyes are shining. She goes off rambling about how cool he is for taking them out like that. He's like a knight that rescues the princess from one of her storybooks. Our hero is taken aback by such a compliment as he tries to play it cool while taking down the bad guys. Marl's the only other girl who has praised him, but hearing Lucina do it leaves him a bit flustered. Once he's done tying the goons, he attaches a note to their bodies explaining that they're kidnappers. With that, the two went on their way. However, it has gotten so late that it leaves Shizuru in a hurry. He turns to Lucina, asking if she's cool with checking out one more place before they head home. Of course, Lucina easily obliges when suddenly Shizuru Princess carries her, as he explains that they don't have much time to lose. Our hero jumps from one roof to another with Lucina in his arms as they finally reach one of the highest places in the city, where you can see an unhindered view of the ocean. Shizuru tells her that this is his favorite place, and that he wants Lucina to see it too. Whenever he comes here and admires the view, all his troubles seem to float away. Lucina tells him that she didn't expect someone like him, a well-behaved and pure child prodigy who is said to appear once in a millennium, could actually have any worries. Hearing her say that just made Shizuru even more embarrassed, because where exactly are these rumors coming from? Anyway, he tells her that he's just a normal human living a normal life. He just happened to be gifted by God with a little special treatment. At the mention of God, Lucina turns to him, just in time for Shizuru to show a bit of his lightning magic. The only kind of magic in this world. Lucina admires how beautiful it is, just as he explains that he feels that he's cheating others and gets depressed. Others had to work hard with what they had, while he could have it easy like this. Sounds unfair, no? However, whenever he looks at how vast the world is, Shizuru thinks it's such a waste of time to spend it worrying. So even if his power is a cheat, he'll use it to his full advantage and become stronger. After all, Shizuru's the only person who can become the strongest magician in the world. As he said that, Shizuru sent sparks flying everywhere with Lucina admiring them. Suddenly, she raises her voice and cheers him on. If it's him, then Shizuru can definitely do it. Shizuru may think that he's cheating, but Lucina saw how he puts in a lot of effort, whether it's his studies or practice. Even though Shizuru is pretty powerful, she notes how the young master doesn't flaunt it and treats everyone equally, even her, a useless and no magic person. She starts to cry at how he treats her so kindly, and seeing her do so just leaves the young master in a panic. Oh no, what does he do next? In a very shoujo manga move, Shizuru hugs Lucina to try and calm her down. In his mind, he remembers his mom used to do this when he cried. Lucina feels embarrassed by the sudden skinship, but Shizuru laughs it off. If anything, he praises her for being hardworking despite her small body. She was about to counter him, but our hero stood firm this time, saying she shouldn't belittle herself. Shizuru knows for a fact that she's a fine young lady that the Marquis family can be proud of, so it's okay to be confident. Those were the words Lucina had been longing to hear. After a hot minute, she finally calms down. She also asks Shizuru to forget her sudden crash out, but he flat out refuses. However, he'll keep it a secret, along with all the other things Lucina shared with him. He tells her that he wants his fiancée to know more about him than others. That's what fate and community are for, right? But if he's being honest, our hero can't say outright that he's actually reincarnated, no? Lucina beams at him and mumbles to herself how this is the first time in her life that she's glad that she's the princess without a blessing. Shizuru turns because he didn't quite catch what she said, but Lucina tells him she didn't say anything. In her mind, it's thanks to her handicap that she was able to meet Shizuru, taking his hand as they finally made their way home. Well, Shizuru's current concern right now is the earful he'll get from his stepmother at home. The question is, how long will Elizabeth's lecture last this time? Meanwhile, in a castle someplace else, a horned ruler grins because it's time.